Sakshi TV. Today we have special guest, U.S. Senate hopeful R.I.K METHA on for a one-on-one exclusive interview with myself, Geeta Chopra. Welcome to the show. Hello, R.I.K METHA.
Hi, Geeta. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be back here with you again.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm honored to be interviewing you again on a different platform, so welcome back. And why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about your background and what you're running for?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Dr. R.I.K METHA, running for United States Senate here in New Jersey. I am the Republican nominee for the Senate race as a statewide race right here in New Jersey. And actually, Geeta, I got to tell you, I'm very proud, honored and humbled. I am the first American of Indian origin to win the nomination for either party, whether Democrats or Republican, for the state of New Jersey. So we've made history, and we're very proud of all of our accomplishments to date. Yeah.
Oh, and you should be. You definitely should be. That's excellent. You've made some great progress, and we're going to talk a little bit more about New Jersey and the liberal stronghold as we get into it. And I understand you're running against Cory Booker, so you've definitely had some amazing accomplishments. So let's talk briefly about your campaign first. Can you tell us what a day on the trail would be like? What's your daily routine, for example?
Absolutely. Well, I got to start by first telling you a little bit about my family because they are my support. My wife, Rima, and I, we live here in New Jersey in Morris County, and we got 3 boys. So you can already imagine we got a full household of 3, 7, 5, and 2.5-year-old running around. And I got to tell you, it's really been one of the best job interviews I've ever been on. We launched our campaign in October. We've made so many strides, so many headways. And honestly, it's my accomplishment here couldn't have been done without all of the sacrifices and hard work that so many of our family, like my father, who immigrated to America from India, gave up so much, took so much risk, so much sacrifice in order to make a better life for us. And so I stand here before you as a U.S. Senate nominee. Now, a day in the life, it's amazing. I'm up and down the state every day, meeting with hardworking women and men, trying to survive, trying to get by, trying to make and live the American dream, like I have, like my wife has, like my sister has, and we truly are blessed. We're meeting with people, those that just are so proud to live in New Jersey, that want to make New Jersey a better place to live. You know, New Jersey is only second to California with the most amount of Indian Americans in the United States. And so we see all the accomplishments of small businesses. And right now with this pandemic, we're working hard to try to save our small businesses. So my campaign has pivoted a little bit in the time of this pandemic to working with our small businesses to make sure that they can survive the economic collapse that's been going on because of the failed policies of our governor here in New Jersey.
Absolutely, and we're definitely going to talk about small businesses as we discuss. I was a small business owner myself. So that's a key point for a lot of voters. And I like what you said about the American dream because my parents too immigrated from India to the United States, and it's we have quite a history. So we are honored and blessed to be living in the United States. So tell me a little bit more about your platform. What are some of the main pillars of your platform for U.S. Senate?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, it's about putting our country first now. I'm so proud and have such deep respect of the country that's given me and my family so much. And so as my background, I'll share with you, I am a pharmacist. In fact, that's where I met my wife. We met at pharmacy school. I went to go do my doctoral degree. I worked at a hospital overnights just to put myself through law school before going to the FDA. I can tell you right now, when I worked, I started under the Bush administration, and then I continued on into the Obama administration, where I saw the globalization of our medical manufacturing chain. So to your first question about what's one of my most important platform, it's to stop our foreign reliance of manufacturing on foreign countries that don't have our interests, like China. That's number one.
Is that the Made in America medicine campaign? Is that what you're referring to?
That's what I'm referring to. I'm glad you remember that one, but it is. It's made in the USA. Look, we have so many of the components, the building blocks of our medicines manufactured in China, which makes us too dependent on a communist country that doesn't have our interest, a country that continues to devaluate their currency, build up a military, and continue to threaten our democracies and our freedoms. And that's unacceptable for me. My opponent, Cory Booker, on the other hand, was instrumental in making sure that jobs, manufacturing jobs here in New Jersey, shuttered, while China doubled the number of medical manufacturing plants over the Obama, Biden, Booker era.
Tuning back in. We apologize. We had a short disruption there, and we were talking about the Made in America medical campaign with U.S. Senate hopeful R.I.K METHA. So, Rick, I'll let you have the floor.
Thank you, Geetha, and I apologize about that. So I'll tell you right now, for me, Made in America medicines is critical. America has grown too reliant under the Obama, Biden, and Booker administration. You know, China saw the doubling of their medical manufacturing plants, while our factories right here in New Jersey shuttered. Okay, for me, that's unacceptable. And I'll tell you right now, it's very important that when I get to Washington, we're going to continue to further the policies that help us to stop our reliance on foreign manufacturing for countries we can't trust, like China. You know, they're a communist country. They continue to take advantage of us. They devalue their currency. And so we're going to put an end to that. We're going to make sure that we have fair trade deals with countries that have our best interest. I know the President Trump, is working very hard. Even just today, you see, I mean, the man was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and his commitment to continuing to create peace in our foreign lands is very important. So for me, India, Israel, these are strong allies of ours. They'll continue to be strong allies, and we'll continue to work on free and fair trade deals. But we're going to stop the reliance on our foreign medical manufacturing on countries that don't have our best interests, like China.
And that's really well said. I do believe that the Trump administration and Trump himself is really the only president that's ever stood up to China in terms of them dumping goods into our economy at a fraction of the price. So this is really amazing stuff. And I really hope you get elected so you can continue on this bandwagon of just really bringing justice to the American economy, if you will. Well, yes, so that was great to discuss that. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about Cory Booker. So what will you do that he's not doing in the context of benefiting Indians? So just think about the Indian diaspora right now who's debating if they're going to vote for you or not. Why should they vote for you? What are you going to do for the Indian community?
Absolutely. Well, for one thing, let me talk about Cory Booker in general. And this is why I don't think anybody should be voting for him, and I don't think many people will be. Number one, Cory Booker hasn't been there for the people of New Jersey. He hasn't been there for the people of America when we needed him most. Last year, Cory Booker, out of any U.S. senator in the entire Washington, entire Congress, missed the most number of votes, more than 65%. Now, Geetha, let me ask you, if me and you miss 65% of our work, what would happen to us? I'd be fired. I don't know about you.
Fired.
You can't get away with that. So this man, he decides to run for president thanks to our failed leadership here in New Jersey. Governor Murphy decides to allow Cory Booker to run for president. Now, this man is a junior senator, failed the people of Newark, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, decides to run for president before even finishing his first term in Senate. So you know what that means? That means his head is always somewhere else. His head is not where it needs to be, which is serving the people of New Jersey. And that's number one, I'm going to be doing different. Number one, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be rolling up my sleeves, working on legislations, the PPP Act, where we needed money and funds to help stimulate and kickstart our economies and people that have lost their jobs during this pandemic, our small businesses that continue to be crushed. Cory Booker, now, like I said, he's been in the Senate for 6 years. 4 of those years he spent trying to trash Donald Trump, not working with him. And 2 of those years he spent gallivanting around the country, raising money from other states for his failed presidential run, and he barely pulled at 4%. So he hasn't been there for the people of New Jersey. He hasn't been there for the people of America. Yeah. Number 2, and let's talk about the Indian diaspora for a minute, because this is something that's close to home and close to my heart. Why would Cory Booker, who said he's friends of the Indian community, that he's friends with the Jewish community, then go back and vote for the Palestinian-Iran deal? Why would he support our enemies, and rather than working towards a peace deal, forsake our allies? That doesn't make sense to me. And I'll tell you right now, what it matters is that he likes to put his hands in other people's business rather than doing the job that he was given to do. You know what that means? that means that he's going to be meddling in India's affairs. You know, when it comes to the dispute that we're having in the Kashmir region, let India handle it. They've been handling it. You know, we're finally making progress towards peace and resolution. Prime Minister Modi, President Donald Trump, these two fine gentlemen are doing a great job. Instead of worrying about the people right here in New Jersey, he's concerned about trying to create more trouble and more controversy in countries that have not serving, you know, the interest of anybody. And that's what Biden's plan is. The second, and I'll tell you what it means for the Indian diaspora here, is that Cory Booker has been instrumental in crushing our suburbs. You know what that means? That means that Cory Booker was the mastermind behind the plan that's forcing a one-size-fits-all federal policy to create without allowing for local and municipal control of the way we develop our suburbs. And that's not right. And I'll tell you this because I've been very clear about this, Newark needs to be fixed first. Okay, we don't want the rest of our state to end up in the shambles that Newark was under Cory Booker's watch. Now, I can sit here and talk about the failures of Cory Booker. I can sit here and tell you that Cory Booker, you know, he's a leader. He's a leader. He led Newark into poverty, okay? Newark has 30% poverty rates. He led Newark into failed educational policies. Now, these poor kids, I'm a father first. Cory Booker's not. He wouldn't know what it means to protect kids, okay? He did not help the educational department there where we have failed educational programs. I tell you right now, in this time of pandemic, were those schools ready to be able to allow for distance learning? No, they weren't. What happened to that $100 million check that Facebook wrote to Newark? When we needed it, it's nowhere to be found. Now, these kids are sent home with Chromebooks, right, laptops, but they don't have internet. You know, it's just failed, short-sighted policies that continue to plague us. So I'll tell you right now what I'll be doing different, because I do want to talk about that. Right now, you have my commitment to make sure that our children succeed. I'm going to be focused on generational policies that allow for us to live in New Jersey, not leave it. So many of us came here, like my father did in 1969 with only $100 in his pocket. We made a home here, all right? And we're going to make sure we preserve our home. We have the highest property taxes in the entire country. You know who that hurts the most? Minorities. Now, if Cory Booker cared about the Black community, the Indian community, and others that, you know, when we came here, we didn't own any land. We didn't have any property. We had, like I said, $100 in my father's pocket. And that was a lot of money, okay? Yes. We didn't have generational wealth. We're going to work on bringing generational wealth back to our children, back so they can succeed. And you can't do that when your taxes are so high. You can't do that when it's easier to start an illegal business than it is a legal business. And let me explain, our regulatory framework in this state and our country is insane. We have tied ourselves in what I call a regulatory pretzel. And it's so hard for the average man or woman to figure out what these laws and regulations are to stay in compliance that they just say, you know what? I'm not going to follow it. I can't follow it. And it's become a secondary form of taxation. So while the governor and Cory Booker are worried about creating baby bonds, what they're not focused on are maternal mortality rates or infant mortality rates. So if they care about our children, why is more than 9% of African-American babies dying before the age of 1? Do they not care about our babies' lives? I am a public health expert. I am a lawyer. I'm going to be working on legislations that actually help impact the growth of our future economy, create opportunities, create incentive programs, allow for school choice. You know, we don't need our children trapped in failed educational programs. And I'll tell you, I'll end with one more thing. The number one determinant to good public health, they say, is what zip code you're in. If that's true, why would we keep our kids trapped in failed educational schools in those zip codes? That doesn't make sense to me. You know why? Because Cory Booker is only interested in special interest. He takes money from corporations. He takes special interest. He's a special interest kind of guy, and that's who he cares about. Versus me, I'm here to support our small businesses. I take checks from the people if they want to donate to me, and we get the message out to help all of us. I know that I'm interviewing for a job to serve the public, not to build my career in politics on the backs of our proud communities. And that's the difference, Geeta, between me and Cory Booker. I'm bringing authentic leadership back to Washington.
Amen. Well said. And I agree with you on all these fronts. And I want to piggyback off of a couple of things, and we might be here until 8 p.m. if that's okay with you, because I've got a few more things here. So just let me know. But you talked a lot about the economy, and I interviewed Senator Joe Panaccio on my show just a little while ago, about 6-7 months back. And we talked a lot about New Jersey, and he expressed a lot of the same regrets that you have just discussed. So New Jersey being an exodus state, that's going to be my next topic, which we're going to kind of steer into, because everybody's leaving New Jersey because of the highest taxes, like you said, the high property taxes, the highest rate in the country. And I think it's up to 40% now of exodus, basically people migrating away. So when you talk about Cory Booker, I think the numbers kind of speak for themselves, right? And the proof is in the pudding of what's really happening there. People are leaving. There's obviously something wrong. So, and you talked about the regulatory pretzel. I really like that. And I really believe that Democrats are just infamous for sabotaging the American dream, which is something I live and die for as well. So I appreciate your stance and your position on all these issues, and certainly we need a candidate like you. So in terms of the migration issue, that basically New Jersey becoming exodus state, which is just really pathetic because it's a beautiful place. It's the Garden State, and I lived there and I enjoyed it, and I had a small business there. So what do you plan on doing for that issue? How are you going to tackle that problem?
So two things. First, let's talk about the issue at hand. So you mentioned the migration. You mentioned 40%. Geeta, I don't want to break your heart here, but I'll tell you right now, it was 44% after the pandemic, and the way the governor's treated his people. It's up to 69% that people want to leave New Jersey. And for me, that's absolutely unacceptable. And you know what the top two reasons? I mentioned taxes. You know what the second reason is? It's corruption. It's corruption.
Okay. And that's typical of a large Democratic Party, because there's so much regulation, red tape, and it's basically big government, right? So anytime there's big government, which is what Thomas Jefferson advised against, that's what happens.
That's right. And unfortunately, we haven't learned how to restrain our powers. And in fact, one of the true strengths of a good leader, like George Washington would say, is not how much power you wield, but it's how much you restrain that power you wield. And so unfortunately, we haven't seen that, especially with this governor. Now, I understand that there's a public health emergency, but it's not a public health emergency in perpetuity in order to impinge on our constitutional rights. The first thing we're going to do, Geeta, is we're going to support our small businesses. That's essential. Like so many Americans of Indian origin and Asians and other minorities, I mean, our state is, you said it's a Garden State. It's absolutely beautiful. But you know what makes it beautiful, Geeta? It's the fact that we are the melting pot for the country. When my father flew into JFK Airport and he saw the Statue of Liberty, he was grinning. And you can imagine this 19-year-old kid, a pretty scrawny kid from India, has never seen snow in his life. He's come here. He knows nobody in this country. He sees the Statue of Liberty, and his heart swells, because it's a land of opportunity. And back home for him in India, there wasn't that at that time. So a lot of people came to this country for the yearning of the streets paved with gold. And that's exactly what it's given him and given us. So we're going to bring that back. We're going to bring back the American dream. How are we going to do that? We're going to force the governor to lower taxes. We're going to bring the SALT deductions back. I mean, we need that. We're going to work with the president, not fight with the president. We're going to explain to him the rationale for high tax states, but we're also going to make it tougher for governors to raise taxes. That's really important. I'm going to use my authority in the U.S. Senate to put pressure on the governor. It doesn't matter if he's Democrat or Republican. We're going to lower taxes. That's number one. And I love that you mentioned Senator Panaccio, Jersey Joe Panaccio. He's a great friend, really smart state senator. He's my state senator for where I live as well. And he's got it right. We got to bring authentic leadership back. We got to stop the hullabaloo and the nonsense. We got to make sure that people can start businesses. We got to create economic incentive programs. And you know what the number one thing is, Geeta? We got to bring back our jobs. And so when I mentioned about bringing medical manufacturing, New Jersey is the pharmaceutical hub. Okay, India being a close trading partner in that department, we got to make sure we preserve our supply chain. We got to make sure manufacturing jobs are brought back to New Jersey. You're going to have my commitment that when I go to Washington, I'm going to be working on policies to make sure they come back to America. And we're going to work not fight with. We're going to work with our state officials to make sure that we create opportunity zones that allow for pharmaceutical manufacturing. And you know what that gives us? That gives us a win-win. Now, I'll tell you, one of my idols is Senator Tim Scott, who created this concept of opportunity zones in blighted neighborhoods and urban development areas. Can you imagine if we can bring pharmaceutical manufacturing back to New Jersey while revitalizing our inner cities, creating jobs for so many? And it's not just Newark or Camden, it's not just inner cities, it's the outskirts too. You know, South Jersey consistently gets forgotten about, but you know, Atlantic County, Cape May, Salem County, I mean, these are beautiful, beautiful counties that just have not had representation because Cory Booker and Bob Menendez win their votes from one county only, and that's Essex County up north, and that's it. And we need to stop that nonsense. You know, when you're a U.S. Senator, you represent the whole state. And I can't imagine. Now, I'll tell you one other thing, a little fun fact. I've been looking for Cory Booker for months now. I can't find him. And most of New Jersey hasn't been able to find him either. So
well, I contacted him. I did contact him to come on my show in case he's watching this. So I couldn't find him either.
Well, I heard he was gallivanting around in Puerto Rico for, I don't know, or house hunting with his Hollywood girlfriend. But you know what you have with me? You have stability. A man that's been married for 10 years, that has 3 kids, that's looking not just to raise my family, to make sure every family in New Jersey has opportunity to live and not leave. And that's critical. So tax incentive programs, we're going to cut the fat in government. And there's one other last important piece you got to understand about New Jersey. We send more money to Washington than we ever get back in federal dollars. So don't let Cory Booker, Bob Menendez pull the wool over your eyes. When they say we've brought billions of dollars back in federal funding, well, every state has. Why are we the last? Why are we the last? And why do we send more and get less than 70 cents to $1? So, you know, let's call spade a spade and let's call them out for it. It's called consistent failures of fighting for federal dollars and not getting New Jersey its fair share. And when I get to Washington, I'm going to be getting our fair share. And you know what that means? That means jobs. That means economic programs to create for every industry, the IT industry, infrastructure, getting the Gateway Tunnel done, not wasting millions of dollars on fake witch hunts against the president. That's what you won't find for me. You know, we're not going to expend legal resources. That money could be used to support our families. We have the highest opioid crisis rates that we've seen in this state in a long time. And you know what? This governor has made New Jersey into a one public health issue state, and that's not fair. That's not fair for those that have mental health disorders, that have, when our suicide rates continue to increase. And I'll tell you a story about my friend, another anecdote. This man, he's owned a gym for 10 years. He built his entire life around that. He has 3 boys and 3 kids, and I'll tell you why, because one of his sons is in class with my son. And last month, he had to shut the doors of his business down. 10 years of hard work down the drain without any scientific evidence from this governor to say that the spread of coronavirus would be decreased if his particular gym was open for business. So Governor Murphy, Cory Booker, they're all complicit in crushing our American dreams. And I'm going to continue to fight against those that want to tear apart our American dream. That's how we're going to make sure people stay in New Jersey and not leave.
Wow. Well, you definitely said a lot of things, and you know, these are really important points, and I just kind of want to highlight a few of them so they don't get missed by the audience. What you described, according to me, is basically make America great again. When you were talking about the economy, I mean, that's basically Trump's platform. When you're talking about getting jobs back from China, you know, the manufacturing industry, all these things. And you know, when I see Cory Booker and then the Democratic Party, I think they're basically just trying to make America socialist, which will, like you said, just sabotage the American dream. It's socialism, right? Big government, public health care, all these things. So it's really devastating, actually, what they're doing to the country. So I want to talk to you about a little bit of a more sensitive topic. So, you know, historically, as you know, and I grew up in the United States, just like you, so I'm sure you would understand what I'm going to say, but typically, by default, the Indian community in the United States does vote Democrat. So it's almost a straight ticket thing. It's what their parents did. It's the right thing to do. So, you know, and that's unfortunate because actually that party does not benefit immigrants at all. Like you said, they basically, they're complicit in destroying the American dream. They're high taxes. They make it impossible for immigrants to come and really build anything of value, of substance. So, and again, we have socialism. So they're coming for the American dream, but the Democratic Party is basically trying to, socialize everything. So what would you say to people out there who are voting or who don't know why they're voting Democrat, and it's kind of like a straight ticket thing because their fathers, grandfathers did it? How would you educate them in this short period of time that you have?
I'll tell you, it's a simple answer. Cory Booker is going to be reaching in your wallet to take your money. R.I.K. METHA is going to be reaching into Cory Booker's wallet and putting it back in your pocket. That's the difference between my platform and Cory Booker's platform. So let's just look at it.
They're not looking at your platform, so they're looking at the party in general, right? So because there's a race card out there. I mean, let's just call it what it is. There's a race card. So if you're not white, and if you're an immigrant, you're not voting Republican. And if you are, you're misinformed. So I'm Republican, and like I said, I was educated here, and I understand fiscal conservatism and all those things. But unfortunately, a lot of people who come from India or just come from other countries, they just think Republicans are racist. Yeah.
Well, look, and Geeta, this is the irony of it, right? Growing up, we had been, I've been a subject and a victim of racism, growing up in a predominantly, I grew up in a pretty mixed neighborhood, but it was still fairly segregated. The Hispanic community stuck with the Hispanic, the Black community Black, the Asians and Indians were segregated. So I've been a victim of racism and I've understood it my whole life. I've never let that identify me. I never needed to, because I always built my success on my own merits, not by the color of my skin or my religious beliefs. I'm very proud of where I came from. And when I launched my campaign, I made sure everybody knew where my roots were from. I never hid from it. And that, I think, is important, because as New Jersey is the melting pot for America, we're also proud of the culture that we've brought to this country. And that's what we do. We assimilate. But we all have the same values, right? We have the values of family, faith, and freedom, support, loving our flag, and loving our country. And so that's critical. And so what I'll say to other minorities historically who vote Democrat, I think they're waking up, Geeta. I got to tell you, I've had some great...
There's change. Yeah.
There's been a big change. There's been a sea change. In fact, a paradigm shift, because I think people see, like, especially in the case of Cory Booker, when he ran for president, he basically forsake all of the policies that he was trying to support. The people that entrusted him to stand up for their positions in Washington, he basically said, I'm sorry, I'm not with you. I'm going to pander to the far left. That's why I'm going to support the Iran deal. That's why, I'm going to support continued socialism programs. Platforms like Medicare for All, that's not going to fix the healthcare system problem, but it's only going to increase your taxes that people can't afford anyways. And they're just going to create more job crushing programs. And so, when we can't come from a place where we work hard, we know the true meaning of fiscal conservatism and economic value. And really it boils down to one thing. It's allowing you to keep your own money to do what it is that you want with it versus the government.
That's the pinnacle of American freedom. That's why Americans are free to begin with, right?
That's right.
Take that away from us.
Well said, exactly. And that's why I think that many communities, I've spoken to the Lebanese community, the Asian community, the Indian, and even within the different sects of the Indian communities, whether it's the Telugu community, the Gujarati community, etc., they're all very aware and awoke about what the policies are that Cory Booker, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris are pressing. And you know what it is, though? Right now, people see and they sense the palpable hypocrisy that the Democrat Party platform has been built on. And you can just sense it. And I'll give you an example. It's visceral. It's very visceral. Our governor in New Jersey, who shut down our restaurants, shut down our gyms, shut down our ability to vote in person on our machines like we normally do without due process, decides that it's okay to do political protests and political marches.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Black Lives Matter or whatever the cause may be. And he felt that that was okay from a constitutional perspective to violate his own executive order. While on the same day I was protesting to save our small businesses in Randolph, New Jersey, and the woman of the tennis center received $2,000 tickets for violating a public health ordinance. So
well, it shows you where their values are, where their mind is, well, what's important to them, essentially, right?
Well, they determine what's important to them. They determine what's essential, non-essential.
Oh yeah, there's no rules. There's no law and order.
That's right. It's become a fiefdom. It's become tyrannical. And, you know, as a public health expert, and this is why I challenged him, I'm happy to talk about that for a minute. But the reason why I challenged him is because I want to see the scientific data, because I know how to read it. I know how to interpret it. As someone who ran a health administration agency charged with inspecting health inspections of every hospital, nursing home, and long-term care facility, I haven't seen one scintilla, one iota of evidence to show from an epidemiological perspective that crushing these small businesses saved lives. In fact, it's the opposite. The governor's failed policies of putting people into nursing homes that are vulnerable populations, and where more than half of the deaths of COVID happened in long-term care facilities under his watch, his health department's watch. Wouldn't have happened under my watch, his watch. And now everyone's being punished for that, for something that he's done. And so it's very, very disappointing, and the hypocrisy is palpable, and I think our communities feel it right now. Plus, I think the relationship between the Prime Minister and the President has never been closer. It's a good time for Indian-American relations, an excellent time for Israeli-American relations. I'm very proud of that, and we're going to have another 4 years of a very prosperous economy. We don't need any more instability and civil unrest that the Democrats have caused, the rioting and the looting in our streets. We don't need 4 years of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's been devastating. And I want to second what you said. I'm very proud of what the Trump administration has accomplished as well, just with diplomatic ties with certain nations, and even with the economy pre-COVID. And when you think about it, in order to get us out of this mess, you know, America's going to wake up in a recession if some of these Democratic governors don't make the right decisions. And this is one of the most important elections in our history, if not the most important one, in November 2020. So I want you to talk a little bit more to that, to voters, because there's still some people who haven't voted yet. And if the right party doesn't win, America can really end up in shambles. And you're talking about all the protesters and, you know, America just being under fire. And of course, they're not socially distancing. So that's just going to exacerbate even more problems in other areas. But I mean, there's just so many issues. I don't even know where to begin. So what would you say to voters right now while they still have a chance to vote, especially to the Indian community who may be uninformed?
Absolutely, Gita. Thank you for that question. It's a very important question. So this year in New Jersey, at least for now, it's going to be a vote by mail process. It's such an important time for voters from all over, every registered voter, to get involved. So the first step I'll say is that you still have the opportunity to register to vote. It's important to get out there. It's important to exercise your political right, your constitutional right. You live in America. Our democracy, our American way of life, and just democracy around the world depends on your ability to vote, to speak who you want representing you in Washington. So the first step is, a lot of people don't take the effort. Make the effort. It matters. Every vote matters. It counts. Believe me, it counts. And I'm telling you, this is, like you said, Geeta, you said it really well. It's probably one of the most important election years we've ever had. We've just been roiled by so many national crises between the pandemic, our racial riots, and the collapse of the New Jersey economy because of failed policies by our governor. It's a great opportunity to exercise your right to vote, and most importantly, get involved in the political process. And you know why else it matters? Because it sets a good example for your children too. Get your children involved in politics. Make them understand history. Like I said, we've made history in New Jersey as me being the first American of Indian origin to win the nomination. If anything, it's going to encourage more of our youth to get involved in the political process. And the way to do that is to go to the booth. I take my 5-year-old to the polls to vote, just to show him what it's all about. And it's very meaningful. It's patriotic. And anyone who loves their country from wherever they are from, voting is the #1 way to show and exercise your constitutional rights. So that's step one. Get out there. You can go online, register to vote. Step two, vote Republican. vote for Rick Mehta and vote for
Save
President
the
Donald Trump.
country.
And yes, and vote down the ticket because we need to save our country. Before this pandemic, America had one of the strongest economies. Our trade relations with India was only getting better. What we don't need is four years of frustrated process with the new administration that clearly doesn't know what they're doing. Combined between Booker, Harris, and Joe Biden, they probably have over 100 years of failed leadership. In New Jersey, we haven't had a Republican U.S. Senator in 50 years. And you know what's happened to the city of Newark in 50 years? We've never changed since 1967 racial riots, and we're having the same issues right now in 2020. It's unacceptable. We need new leadership. We need new platform, new policies, and new change, one that's going to represent the people, one that's interested in small businesses and family values, not one that's driven by special interest and Hollywood showboating. That's what Cory Booker brings to the table. So register to vote and then exercise your right to vote. This year, because it's vote by mail, for those that are home, you can do it from home. It's very easy. It's like a 3-step process. You separate the envelope, you sign your name on the top, and you check off who you want to vote for. Again, look for Rick Mehta down the column, President Trump, Rick Mehta. I'll be right underneath the president. And fill out the bubble and then mail it back in. Go to a secure Dropbox location and cast your vote. You know, it's a very simple process. And, you know, again, it means a lot to the outcome of this election, Geetha. So if I have to tell anybody, if you've never done it before, get involved. We're making history. Be a part of that history.
I agree. Amen. Definitely. We are making history with this election now. You said it really well, you know, just your name's going to be right under the president. That's a great place to be. And I like how you said they have combined 100 years of failed leadership on their resumes. So one thing that I don't understand, and maybe you can shed some light to this, you know, New Jersey has historically been voting for the left party, Democrat/socialist in my opinion. Now I think, you know, what I really believe is timing is everything. And I think it's just come to the point where it's a volcano erupting and all of their failed policies have basically accumulated now and people are seeing them and smelling them and dealing with all the debris of that. Like you said, I think 69% migration, high property taxes, all kinds of stuff, small businesses just disappearing. So people are angry. And now I hope and believe that you're in the right place at the right time to take over. So just talk to me a little bit more about why do you think they have gotten away with this for so long? Why has New Jersey voted for this party for so long, despite their failure after failure after failure? And do you think that now we're in a place where we're pivoting and we're shifting for the Republican Party to set in to New Jersey finally? Yeah,
so there's a couple things to unpack there. First, as it relates to New Jersey, you know, for statewide races at least, we have had Republican leaders win statewide races, right? Governor Christie did it. The reason is because while we have about roughly 2 million Democrats to 1 million Republicans, we also have about 2 million independent voters. And what that means is that they kind of swing one way or the other. And this year, I'll tell you right now, the Republican Party is the party that's representing law enforcement officers, first responders, teachers that want a better salary, you know, day laborers, small businesses. We truly are and have become the party for the people. And, you know, I can't talk about the past, but like I said, you know, Cory Booker has gone so far left that he's only in it. Look, he was at special summits with Lady Gaga and hosted by Google. And, you know, when he was mayor of Newark running for US Senate, he was out in California trying to raise money for an internet startup. So his head is never in the job that's before him. And so the people of New Jersey see that, you know, there are like strong machines in New Jersey. And again, this is one of the reasons people want to leave, because they're tired of the corruption. One of the things that I think the president has done a good job of is, you know, he calls it draining the swamp. We have a swamp right here in New Jersey, you know, with Democrats and, you know, people that, you know, say they're a party like Republicans, but then continue to support Democrats. We have a lot of that because, you know, there's just a lot of corruption in the state. What we're doing is we're changing that, right? We're working truly for the people and let them have a voice, let them decide. And when I stepped into this race, you know, one of the things that I was very proud of, because, you know, people have asked me, they said, you know, they'll say, Dr. Mehta, you have never held public office before. And they actually look at me like that's a bad thing. And I say, you know what? I'm very proud of that. I'm not a career politician. I don't know enough to say one thing and do another. This is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. I've built successful businesses, and that's exactly what we're going to do for New Jersey again. Here's my platform. This is what I stand for. I hope you like it. And so far, we've built so much momentum on that messaging alone because people see me as someone who's going to come in as an authentic leader. They don't see that with Cory Booker, who continues to pander and say one thing and then do another when push comes to shove. When it serves his own interest or a special interest that's giving him a lot of money, like Big Pharma or other corporations, he'll take it. And then he'll say whatever they want to hear. That's not what we need anymore. We need someone who you can trust and someone you can like. And that's me, R.I.K METHA.
You know, and that's great. I want to just highlight something you said, that you are not a career politician. And I think that's a blessing and that's a great asset, because if you look at Trump, again, I think that's one of the things that made the Trump administration so successful in terms of the economy, is that he was not coming in with all these, you know, snake-like behaviors or political type of, you know, strategic moves. He just came in kind of like a businessman. And I really think and believe now that in order to get us out of this economic mess, we need people who think in that capacity, right? Not a socialist. So I mean, a communist is not going to be able to take America out of this mess that we're in, economically speaking. So, you know, that's, and again, I'm not being biased because I am Republican, but I do believe that just the fiscal conservatism measures from the Republican Party is really the way out of this mess, and that's the party you're representing. And I would just add that never has the divide been so extreme. I mean, I believe the Democratic Party has gone extremely bonkers and very far to the left. And I say that respectfully. I have Democratic friends and even family, but some of the you know, I mean, America under fire. I mean, these riots and just different things, like you said, you know, shut down the businesses, but let the protesters continue. It just makes you question their sanity at this point. So I think voters should really take all that into account. And, you know, it's not about the race card. It's about reason, I think, at this point, and logic. So, yeah, I'm just laughing at myself because some of the ways you have described things are just awesome. And I'm probably going to laugh when they turn the camera off just about Cory Booker and some of the things he's done. So that's wonderful. I love your personality. But I want to talk to you about a little bit about another sensitive topic, and this directly affects Indian voters. Tell me a little bit more about immigration, because many people are offended by Trump's immigration policies. And I'm talking about the H-1B workers or the H-4 visa holders or E-2 or even the people who are on a NAFTA visa from Canada or Mexico. And I know, you know, with COVID-19, Homeland Security is like pretty much 30% shut down, and they raised all their fees. So that just adds fuel to the fire of people who are already upset with Trump for his immigration policies. So what would you say to that? What's your comment?
Well, they shouldn't be upset, and I'll tell you why. We have a very bureaucratic process, and if anything, the administration has been supportive of making sure that those that come here for the purpose that immigration was intended for, right? Let's not let people in other countries take advantage of America. What was the number one driver of immigration policies to allow for immigration here in the first place? And it's very simple. It's the same reason why my father came here. Education, innovation, and opportunity, right? Many, for example, if we talk about the Indian American community that came here either late 50s to the early 70s, it was because of the Federal Highway Act and we had a shortage of engineers, right? It served the need, it created opportunity, it drove innovation and advanced our economy, right? My father spent 30 years in cancer research, and his contributions have led to the discovery of new molecules that have allowed us to, you know, tackle cancer. So, you know, when we talk about America being the greatest country, the reason it's one of the greatest countries is because we allowed immigration in our legislation to drive economic opportunities for everyone. So anyone that's upset really shouldn't be upset about the fact that, you know, over the last few months, like every country, we've had to shut down our borders. That's important. you know, when we have a pandemic at hand in order to stop the spread of it. That's number one. Number two, we can't let illegal immigration undermine our legal processes, or you can't let illegal activities go unenforced in order to, you know, which would then undermine the legal processes. And so I support the president when he talks about securing our border. It's very important. I've been down there and I've seen it. It's a very loose border. And not only does it create a national security interest or risk, you know, we're getting a lot of drugs that are trafficked through the border as well. And I know because I fought against the opioid crisis and I've seen it. You know, you get like less than a pinky's worth of fentanyl derivative. That's enough to kill you. And when you see the opioid rates spiking, they're not because of prescription drugs, they're because of illegal street drugs oftentimes. So, you know, there are many reasons why we need to secure our border. Now let's talk about legal immigration. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. It's a bureaucratic nightmare. And we've had some pending legislation up on the Hill that the Democrats themselves have not been supportive over. In fact, you've had senators like Dick Durbin go up and actually not only chastise, make, you know, stereotypical and racist comments against Indians. These are Democrats, the same ones that are so quick to use the race card when it doesn't suit their needs, say racist things. So, you know, and Cory Booker's no different. So, you know, I have no respect for those that don't want to actually fix the problems and leave the problems in perpetuities. Come to the table and offer solutions. And that's exactly what I'll do. We're going to reduce the backlog. We're going to look to see if we can open up the caps. But at the same time, we're going to make sure that our visa policies, our immigration policies serve the greater good for America. And we got to make sure that we put America first. So, you know, there may be people who are unhappy with that, but overall, I think America has one of the best immigration programs in the world.
Right. Wow. Yes, definitely very well said. Thank you for that response. And I agree with you, you know, America being the melting pot of the world, we ask for the best and brightest to come to our country. And of course, there has to be some screening, right? A country without borders is not a country. And I think Democrats don't understand that. And in general, the world may not understand that. So I think that's one of the most important things that Trump has done. And again, if you look at my parents, just like your parents, they immigrated legally, right? So come, you know, and that's what the Statue of Liberty represents. Come to me, all you who are tired, and you know, it's come for the American dream, but come legally. So I don't believe that the Trump administration is against immigration. I believe they're against illegal immigration, and that's something that keeps getting left out. It's that word that precedes the immigration. So
Right.
I response to that and support them. We only have a couple minutes left. We have 2 minutes, Rick. So is there anything else you want to tell the audience before we close?
Well, Geetha, like you said, it's such an honor to be back with you. This is one of the most important election cycles we've ever had. I'm Rik Mehta. I'm the United States nominee for the Republican Party in New Jersey. I want to make sure that people follow me and follow my race. We've made history here, and we're continuing to build on those successes. Me being here as your United States nominee is an attestament to our proud communities, many of who've sacrificed so much to come to America to build a better life. Me, myself, and my family, my wife and my kids, we have such deep appreciation of everything that America has given us. So you can find me at rikfornj.com. That's RIKFORNJ.com. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, social media, and follow our race. You know, like I said, we're making history. It's a very electric time. New Jersey will go red, and New Jersey will reelect President Donald Trump, and you will see me, first American of Indian origin in the United States Senate, representing the Republican Party after 50 years for the great state of New Jersey.
All right. Yes, well, let's call that by faith. I like it. Well said. Rik Mehta, U.S. Senate hopeful. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and make sure to follow his website to stay ahead of his campaign, to know exactly what's happening, and make sure you vote this year. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.